there is no God, then my hope is flawed. It's the Power of God's Love podcast, episode 1021. Hey there, Tony here, and it's Christmas Eve 2025. Can you believe it? That's when everybody goes, can you believe it's already Christmas again? Can you believe it's already Christmas Eve? Can you believe it's already New Year's Eve? Yeah. Can you believe it's already 2026? We're going to be saying that in just a few days. Anyway, I hope today goes better for you than a batch of homemade butter cookies with grass-fed butter, and let's even throw in a bunch of pecans. I know there's a lot of people out there who can't tolerate nuts, but pecans, come on! Butter cookies with pecans. Anyway, hope your day's better than even that. But if there is no God, it won't be. Or it could be, but it'll be short-lived. Let me get to the point, right? If there's no God, then I've spent most of my life hoping for something that doesn't exist, and it will never be a reality for me. Or anyone else, for that matter. Yeah, there's no hope for the world if there is no God. Plain and simple. Because without the hope of at least some sort of access to eternal life, there's not even a good reason for any of us to even exist. And if there is no God, hope for an eternal life is just a figment of your imagination. And that's at best. At worst, it gets worse. Here's what I said about this whole idea about a dozen years ago when I introduced my Christmas song, I Believe in the God of Christmas. I said, most people don't believe in the God of Christmas, the real God. And I can only imagine the inner sense of hopelessness and futility that stirs up. Because the God of Christmas is the one and only God. He's the God who created the heavens and the earth. He's the God who created us and every living creature and inanimate thing on earth. And He's the God who knows every detail of what is best for us. And there is absolutely no absolute truth without Him. Guaranteed. Yeah. Nothing you can depend on except yourself. Maybe a little bit. And that's a recipe for hopeless chaos and confusion. And tell me this, have you noticed some chaos and confusion in this world? Even the short tweets or posts or whatever you want to call them on X.com, which was formerly known as Twitter, even those little short things highlight the chaos and confusion in this world. Just read a few of those. You'll see there's so much confusion. People disagree on everything. But I believe most people are looking for an answer to their hopelessness. Unfortunately, most refuse to believe their hope could be found in Jesus. You know, some Jewish carpenter who possibly lived 2,000 years ago. He couldn't possibly be the God of Christmas. So how could He possibly be the hope of the world? But He is. But you don't have to believe that. But one day you will. And if that day isn't during your current time here on earth, then it's going to be too late. When you believe in Him then, you will have already chosen to be your own God. And you'll get to rule and reign in a universe of one for eternity. But here's the thing, that terrible fate is so avoidable. And here's the complicated blueprint for what you got to do to avoid it. You ready? Okay, stick with me on this. It's complicated. Believe and trust. Now let me know if you need me to go back over all the steps with you, okay? I'll be glad to. Just contact me, Tony at TonyFunderburk.com, and say, Tony, I didn't understand, man. Can you go over those steps with me in more detail? And I'll be glad to. But I do believe it is so easy, even though it's so excruciatingly impossible for most to do it. I pray that you'll start to dig deeper than the physical, if you haven't already, and certainly deeper than the so-called metaphysical. In fact, take a deep dive into your own soul today, and that's something you can do. And then listen. Listen very, very closely. Or as Elmer Fudd would say, very closely. And I pray that you'll hear that still small voice, and then you'll begin to understand what I mean when I sing, I Believe in the God of Christmas.
Some believe there's just a day, and then we die to say we never die. We all live on above the sky. Disregard the theft and hate and greed. But I believe in the God of Christmas, and I believe in His gift to us all. And I believe that He died to save us, and that He rose to recover our fall. Yes, I believe in the God who loves us, and I believe in the God who lives. Yes, I believe in the God of Christmas. He gave His love, and He still freely gives. One day soon we just may find so many millions left behind in a world where truth is torn apart. Then no lights, no Christmas trees, no arts and no humanities will bring peace to any broken heart. But I believe in the God of Christmas, and I believe in His gift to us all. And I believe that He died to save us, and that He rose to recover our fall. Yes, I believe in the God who loves us, and I believe in the God who lives. Yes, I believe in the God of Christmas. He gave His love, and He still freely gives. He freely gives. Yes, I believe in the God of Christmas, and I believe in His gift to us all. And I believe that He died to save us, and that He rose to recover our fall. Yes, I believe in the God who loves us, and I believe in the God who lives. Yes, I believe in the God of Christmas. He gave His love, and He still freely gives. He freely gives. He gave His love, and He still freely gives. He freely gives. He gave His love, and He still freely gives.
Yes, to this day, He still freely gives eternal life to anyone who asks for it and believes in His Son, Jesus. Of course, if there is no God, the one you can find when you open your eyes to the truth, then even my time spent writing that little song was just wasted. I don't believe it was. How about you? Okay, thanks for tuning in to this special Christmas Eve 2025 episode of the Power of God's Love podcast. As always, it's brought to you by TonyFunderburk.com. And I suggest you go over there to TonyFunderburk.com, look for the form, put in your email address, and subscribe to the Truth Journal. Because I send things out on a regular basis, and some of those things are cool, fun stuff that you and kids would enjoy. Because most kids from 3 to 103 do. And I send them to you for free, by the way. Until next time, Merry Christmas, and don't forget to look for an opportunity to share the power of God's love with someone you love today.